So that is why every time I see these high-end price predictions on XRP, I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's back up a second, okay? Because if we want to see any of those things come into fruition, all of this that you're seeing right now on the charts needs to turn into support. If we can overcome those two levels, I will get very optimistic that we could start to see a much higher recovery on XRP. All right, so in previous video breakdowns, just giving you guys a real quick XRP update. All right, the reason why I like to talk about what we discussed previous is so that way if we ever have any newcomers, they can see that we discussed these things in advance, realistically, no hopium, no hype, accurate institutional analysis and levels before they play out. That is very important. Not a lot of retail investors or analysts on the internet are accurate, but let alone can actually call out realistic targets before they come into fruition. And so in this previous call that we had broken down for you guys, we discussed when price was trading at about $2.33 that there was a sell wall that existed there, and that if sellers were going to defend, they were likely to push price down into $2, where we would see buyers needing to step back in to defend at their previous buy walls if we were to see any higher prices. And so those predictions and levels came into fruition. All right. And so not only did I make a video publicly about that, where I mentioned possible buys at $2 are now the new area of interest, but also Scalper, utilizing order flow, said this bottom buy wall is the last stand for buyers. If they keep price above, then they have the chance to test upper levels. And he highlighted those for you guys. All right. And so now taking a look real fast at XRP's current price, we've held above the institutional dark pool at $1.90, and we have come down straight into the $2 range, and we have seen buyers make an attempt to step back in. We are not out of the woods yet. Without utilizing order flow just on the naked charts, because we're going to jump into order flow and take a look at where there's trapped buyers and sellers, where there's sell walls, where there's buy walls, to give you guys a little bit better insights. But right now, just taking a look, we know that the backdrop today supported a continued rate cut narrative, which has helped some recovery in risk assets. But we need to see it solidified. We need to see that sentiment continue to improve. And there's a lot of uncertainty right now that is still lingering that I'm still worried about as we head into 2026. So even if we do see a market recovery, I want you guys to just keep in the back of your mind things that we are being mindful of that could weigh on prices in the coming days ahead, or coming weeks ahead, or coming months ahead. That is number one, the Japanese yen carry trade unwind. Know that if that does unwind at a very rapid pace, and we see a worst case scenario where they've mentioned that there could be trillions of dollars in unwinds that take place, it is likely to weigh on risk assets. It's not guaranteed, but it is definitely a catalyst where if we see aggressive yen strength, if we see any liquidity shocks, it will likely affect downside pressure on risk assets, XRP included, right? So just understand that's something that we are being very mindful of in the coming days ahead, especially with central bank policy releases and announcements next week. Obviously, of course, we'd like to see those fears behind us, or we'd like to see solidification from major central banks that they're going to be able to handle and manage those liquidity shocks. Okay. Another thing I'm paying attention to in the coming days ahead are obviously, of course, the announcements between Russia, Ukraine, that whole entire debacle. I shared some analysis with you guys in the fundamental section yesterday of Putin threatening Europe. If things were to escalate, so on and so forth, they could go to war with Europe, which would obviously, of course, be a monkey wrench in the catalysts. Okay. I'm paying attention to the outcome between Trump, his tariffs, and the Congress. You know, how do they make Trump's current tariffs legal? Did they make them illegal? We know if they make them illegal, it's going to create a bunch of tariff uncertainty, and that could create some repricing into the new year or even into the new year, which we know markets don't like uncertainty. We could see favored environment for safe haven, short term, more sell pressure on risk assets. And then the last thing that I'm paying very close attention to is obviously, of course, how the market prices in rate cuts heading into 2026. Do we continue to see data throughout the remainder of December that support the easing narrative into 2026, or do we see any data that pushes back against that? If we can see a favorable backdrop on the fundamental aspect of things. And all of the things that I said could change in the coming days ahead. That's why it's important to be a part of this community, because I will update you guys with full on typed out reports day to day as the things change. But nonetheless, if we can see a supportive fundamental environment and we can hold above these key levels that we're currently trading above now, which is the $1.90 to $2, I firmly believe that, again, if the fundamental backdrop supports it, we could start to see a recovery and rekindle some of November's and October's losses. The first threshold above $1.90 and $2 is $2.33. We'll get into the order flow here in just a second. Above $2.33, $2.68. If we can overcome those two levels, I will get very optimistic that we could start to see a much higher recovery on XRP, but not until those two levels are achieved, with sellers trapped at those levels and buyers becoming aggressive above. Okay. So those are my two first most immediate upside targets on XRP before I expect any higher prices. To the downside, if sentiment were to worsen real fast, on my radar is still $1.56. I believe over in the Delta section on XRP, we had the lowest levels pop up at 88 cents to 96 cents. So I will keep those on my radar, but to the downside, my most immediate next bearish targets come in at about $1.56. Until those levels are met or not met, again, I'm just keeping those immediate levels on my radar, which is $1.56. Anything under $1.90 headed towards $1.56, you guys will have another update from me personally. But for now, we'll keep it small in terms of, I don't want to like throw 88-cent targets out there, 96 cents targets, and be like, oh my gosh, price is 100% going to come into those levels, because of course we would need to see risk off sentiment, probably worst case scenario for yen carry trade unwinds, and that could create a catalyst that drops XRP down into those levels, but we're not there yet. But they are on our radar. Okay. So to the downside, $1.56. Right now, $1.90 and $2 needs to hold. Higher targets, $2.33 needs to be broken with bullish sustainable holds above. 268 would be the next catalyst for us to overcome if we want to see any major correction on XRP. Keep in mind that the highest institutional deltas and dark pools that have popped up on our radar up to this point come in at $4.44 and $5.17. And I am not round tripping this mother trucking time. If we see prices come up into these levels and I see on the order flow a trapped buyer at these freaking dark pools, I am 110% probably going to secure some profit. I'll probably sell maybe 20 or 30,000 units of XRP and then try to re-implement that capital back in at a pullback once we see buyers step back in. I'm just throwing those levels on our radar because they did pop up on our software. Okay. Coming over to the order flow. All right. So now let's take a look. I'm out of tea. God help me. Okay. So you guys can see my charts.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in previous video breakdowns, you guys, if you all remember, we talked about the $2.28 range. And so you can see clear as day, this sell dark pool at $2.28 is holding very well so far. You can see that sellers overpowered buyers here in this area, trapped them at highs, threw up a sell wall that was retested. Sellers held weight, became aggressive, and continued to create bearish order flow beneath it. Recently, when we made our last video, price was back at the $22.28 dark pool here in this area. And this is why I was mentioning a possible pullback down into $2, because we had these buy walls here in this area. So you can see price came straight back down into those buy walls. And for now, buyers have trapped sellers at these lows at roughly about $2, and they have started to push price back to the upside. What is not looking so good right now is that for the time being, we have a very aggressive seller here in this area that trapped a buyer in this bearish candlestick. And you can see buyers just made an attempt to push above this previous resistance or this sell wall, and they have now been continuously trapped. Sellers have continuously tried to defend, and price is now currently stalling. So, in terms of what I'm seeing right now, if we want to see this bullish momentum from $2 continue, what we need to see is we need to see buyers become aggressive enough to break this current seller who is clearly defending their previous positions. And we need to see a push above the sell dark pool at $2.28. And we need to see a bullish push and buyers become very aggressive above this seller at roughly around $2.33 to $2.30, all here in this area. And if we cannot see that, then we're likely going to continue to see sellers defend and push prices lower. To the downside, we still have some buy walls set up here at roughly about $1.92 and $1.88, which will be the last barrier of support on XRP if price was to come down into these levels. So even if sellers do overpower buyers at current prices and we break below $2, in terms of the order flow charts next on our radar for buyers to possibly come back in and defend at previous prices where they were buying, again, that $1.90 dark pool, so $1.90 to about $1.88 is going to be our last line of defense. As long as we are above these levels, we're likely going to just continue to see consolidation and a battle between buyers and sellers. I still remain hopeful that XRP's price can recover as long as we're above $1.90. If we give up that $1.90 threshold, I'm expecting lower prices. So for now, $1.90 is in my personal opinion, key area of support. Where as long as we're trading above that and we can break above these key resistances or where sellers have clearly defended their previous prices, while at the same time breaking above dark pools at $2.28 and key areas of interest at $2.33, then we can start to get excited about possible higher prices. Because what's likely going to follow through with that, if we can see buyers break above those levels and turn them into support, is buyers following through with aggression, right? But we have not seen a fundamental backdrop that supports that thesis yet, all right? Hopefully, we get there heading into the remainder of this year, but we still have so many headwinds that could weigh on the current sentiment if they unfold. All right. So we just need to be very mindful of that. Hopefully, you guys are writing these levels down if you do day trade XRP or you seek to continue to fill your bags with more XRP positions. You're not buying into rallies and instead you're buying into discounted areas. So, how you can use the order flow charts or the deltas or the dark pools in our community is you can literally just go in and set up spot buy price executions or market orders at these levels, waiting for price to come down into them instead of buying at a premium like everybody else does. You could literally just see that buyers have defended at these previous levels. Right now, that comes in at about $2 to $2.04. And so if price comes back down to these areas of interest, it's a very high probability that if buyers are interested in this price, they're going to defend at these levels. So that would be a good key area of interest to wait for buys, right? So for now, those are the levels that I'm paying attention to on XRP. I think honestly, tracking crypto price action day to day is super freaking boring because it moves so slow when there's no volume and volatility. On the days where there is volume and volatility, it moves fast as shit. But if there isn't, it just moves like molasses. And so we're kind of in that phase right now where we're at the end of the year. It's possible that the market makers rebalance their order books, or it's also possible that they rally us into the remainder of this year heading into 2026. We just need to be very precautious. I'm continuing to buy at discounted levels and opportunities that present themselves. And so for now, just to sum this up, a sustainable hold above
Hey,
$1.90,
Charles,
a
um,
sustainable hold above $1.90 would make me
do you know
optimistic.
how to tighten up the
A break above $2.28 to $2.33 would make that optimism ever more so apparent. And if we can break above, taking a look at the higher sell walls, look at this. Look, oh my God, dude. You know how many retail traders don't even know that these exist? You guys, look at this. Oh my God. Look at all the sell volume. Oh shit, I didn't even zoom out. Look at all the sell volume. That is so crazy. Okay. All right. So above this dark pool at $2.28 and $2.33, look at all the sellers that we would have to overpower and see buyers break through with aggression at all of these levels. I'm not even going to get into that. We'll get to these levels when we get there. But wow, I could not imagine being a retail trader that cannot see this. Because imagine if we do see a rally and we come up into, like, let's say, for example, here, $2.83. Look at how many sellers exist here, all in this area with aggression, you know? And we're going to be able to see firsthand if at this level, when we revisit it, buyers have enough aggression, you know, to throw up a passive defense, trap sellers, push price above this level, turn it into support, and then become aggressive above it. And if not, we will already know in advance if we see buyers trapped at these levels and sellers become aggressive at these levels, where the market makers are taking a piss from. Okay. So I'm not even going to get into all these higher levels. You guys have my immediate targets for now. Anything above $1.90, I'm optimistic. If we go below $1.90, you guys have those levels and targets. Outside of that, though, man, continue to ask Scalper for updates in the order flow section. All right, in the XRP analysis chat. I see some of you guys ask him for daily updates. That's really great because he breaks down every single day what's happened in terms of intraday price action. Nonetheless, though, there is a lot of levels and sell momentum that we need to overcome if we want to see any higher prices on XRP. Like, take a look at this right here. The highest institutional sell wall that comes in on our radar right now, sitting at $3 and let's say $3.40, right? Imagine we come all the way back up to that. And right when we come back up to $3.34, the seller that exists here in this area decides to defend their previous positions, trap buyers again, and become aggressive after that. Right. So that is why every time I see these high-end price predictions on XRP, I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's back up a second, okay? Because if we want to see any of those things come into fruition, all of this that you're seeing right now on the charts needs to turn into support. And we need to see buyers like this. You see how all in these levels, these buyers were super aggressive here, and in these bullish candlesticks, they were trapping sellers. You can see that here with sell volume trapped in these bullish candles. We need to see all of this type of price action above all of this red shit before we can even assume that we're going to see new all-time highs on XRP. And you can see clear as day how we are the farthest thing away from any of that right now, right? At least in this current environment on this current Zoom call recording. All right. So hopefully that gave you guys some clarity and realism, right? I'm always trying to just touch base with you guys and make sure that everybody's level-headed. Okay. If these levels are achieved in the coming days ahead, you guys will have updates. But outside of that, that's all that I have for you guys on XRP. Any questions that you guys want to throw, you're more than welcome. But my throat chakra needs a fucking break right now. Outside of that, though, that's all that I have for you guys. Like I said, I appreciate everybody who has sent me some love and support as I've been traveling the past couple of days. I do appreciate you all for being patient. We'll get back into the swing of things next week and hit everything full force as we do have the Fed FOMC meeting, which is going to take up most of our attention next week and then heading into the new year. All right. So if there's any questions, I'll leave the floor open for a second. If not, then blessings to you guys.
I'll just give everybody a reminder that no DeFi call tomorrow, and I'll be back next week. I'm gonna be starting to trade back up on Monday. I've actually been multitasking all day today, putting my office together this sunrise. So yeah, I look forward to getting back into the swing of things next week, guys.
How's your new place, bro? Everything solid?
Yeah, just everything's in, boxes and, organizing and then trying to clean while we're doing it because we had a bunch of movers in the crib with their nasty ass boots on. We don't be wearing shoes in our cribs, so we got to clean one square of the flooring in this area of the house, and then you know what I mean?
Trust me, bro.
Struggles.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I know moving is a pain in the ass, especially when you're older. What?
I've got a question.
What's up, brother?
Um, so those the sell walls or the buy walls, do you find that sellers always defend their positions, like going back, like you see those that go way back? Like, do you find that they're the same sellers are going to defend those same positions going forward?
Mm, yes and no. It depends.
Yeah.
Um, it's not really about predicting At what sell wall it is going to be defended in the future. It's more so of during that intraday price action, where is price at? And if price is at a sell wall, paying very close attention in the moment to if sellers defended or not,
Okay, thanks.
if that makes sense. um, but yeah, man, the data that we have access to is crazy, super crazy to just be able to see how many sellers right now exist over buyers in the market. Like, I mean, you can even clearly see. Let me share my screen again. Like, think about it logically. Just looking at this, look at how many more sellers right now exist than buyers. And every single time buyers have tried to overpower. So, like, what's very interesting, at least from what I'm seeing about this price action right now, is so look at this area here. I'm going to highlight it with my mouse a couple of times. Okay. What you'll notice about all these previous areas is so every single time buyers, so say for example here, buyers tried to make an attempt to push price higher. Well, what happened? Sellers trapped them, became aggressive, threw up sell walls, and pushed price down. The low was violated. Buyers had an attempt to make one last stand and defend. They tried, but again, sellers overpowered them, trapped buyers at highs, continued to follow through with sell walls and become aggressive, and continued. So buyers kept getting trapped. See all this? They're getting trapped at highs, they're failing to defend, and every single time a buyer support comes in and it gets retested, buyers fail to break higher. So what we're looking for here is, do you see here how these sell walls are on the outside of price action? And you see here how these buy walls are on the inside of price action. We want that to flip-flop. So do you see here now how the buy walls are on the outside of price action? If we want, this is why Scalper said the $1.90 is the last defense, is because if we want to see higher prices, we need to see these buy walls, i.e., buyers becoming aggressive enough to push price higher, form on the outside of price action and not trapped on the inside. Okay. So just like here, hopefully this is giving you guys a clear perspective. See how buyers threw up buy walls, tried to push price through the seller. Then when price came back to revisit the buys, buyers failed. Sellers became aggressive enough to push through the buy volume and continued to trap buyers and defend and throw up resistance. So we don't want to see that happen here. And so right now, we're not seeing that yet. But if these buy walls are trapped on the inside of price action and do not form on the outside, and we see buyers become aggressive enough to push price through all of this sell volume, that is going to be a very big concern, right? And it's most likely going to repeat itself in the same type of price action, which is buyers getting trapped internally and externally, and sellers externally overpowering buyers and pushing price lower. Is the way that I just explained that make that clear for you guys? So let me draw it on the screen on TradingView so you guys can kind of get a understanding of what I'm saying. So what we've seen is every single time buyers have thrown up a defensive wall and tried to become aggressive to push price higher, what happens is sellers have defended, pushing price back down into the defense. Buyers have one last attempt to defend. And instead of defending, what happens is buyers will make an attempt to defend and we'll see a buy wall. We'll see buyers.
I'm not seeing what you're drawing there, Cypress. I'm
You
still
can't see
seeing
anything.
institutional scalpers.
Can you see now?
No, now,
Now
yeah,
I can.
yeah.
Okay, sweet. So back to what I was saying. Let's restart. So this is what XRP's price action looks like, right? You have the downtrend. And here at these supports, you have buyers making an attempt to defend. Sellers then come through, they trap buyers at highs, and if they throw up sell walls or resistances. And all of the buyers get trapped on the outside of price action, trying to push price higher, and then sellers follow through with aggression. When price comes back down into the resistance or the supports, buyers have an attempt to defend. And what you'll see is you'll see buyers make an attempt to defend, but then a buyer will get trapped at a high coming into a previous resistance, and the sellers will again become aggressive. And you'll continue to see sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure, or, excuse me, sell pressure, sell pressure. Then boom, at the bottom, you'll see buys. So then you'll see this. Okay. Then you'll see buyers try to make an attempt to push through the sells. See? But then when they come back up to the sells, boom, they get trapped again at a high. And then you'll see it shift. Sell pressure. Sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure. And so what we want to see is as above, so below. We want to see buyers, which is kind of what we're seeing now, boom, become aggressive enough to throw up buy walls, which they've done. And you see here how all of this buy volume is internal. We want to see sell volume become internal. Okay. And then we want to see buy volume. So imagine this is that $2 pullback. So this is $1.90. This is $2. When price came back into it on XRP, we saw another buy volume set. Okay. So now what we want to see is we want to see buyers become aggressive enough to defend at these positions and push price through previous resistances and continue with the buy volume. And we want to see the sellers. Sorry, I should have drawn all that red. We want to see the sellers get trapped internally. This is signaling to us that all of previous resistances, you can see, are turning into supports, and sellers are getting trapped at lows. Okay, you guys seeing what I'm seeing? All right, and so if we go look at the XRP charts, this is why our software is so fucking accurate, you guys, because we can literally see we can literally see that sellers are still predominantly in control of this price action. But right here, buyers have a chance. So you can see for the first time, look at this. This is exactly what I'm trying to show you all. Sellers, here's sell walls trapped inside, so internally. Buyers are externally trying to create supports to push price higher. They need to follow through. So what we would ideally like to see is we'd like to see all of these sellers, see here how they exist, get trapped on the inside of price action and then follow through. We'd like to see a continuation. So we'd like to see buyers retest the buy volume and continue to follow through with aggression. So do you guys see the difference? How right now sell volume is external and overpowering buy volume, trapping buyers internally and externally. And inversely, what we need to see on XRP is we need to see buy volume turn into external momentum, trapping sellers at lows, pushing price through previous resistances and turning them into supports, i.e. trapping internal liquidity and pushing price higher. Is the way that I explain that clicking for you guys?
It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, that was really good, bro.
So this is how when people are like, oh, you don't have software that can predict what's going on in the markets. No, actually we do. because it clearly shows us right now that sellers are predominantly in control of these markets until these sell walls are broken and we see a shift in momentum. Buy volume external, sell volume internal. Buyers becoming aggressive, trapping sellers at lows. We have not seen that yet. But I'm hopeful that for the first time, we are starting to see that now. So you can see that here. Let's zoom in. There's a huge trap seller right here. Here's a bearish candle, yellow imbalance, following through with bullish buy volume. Then right here again, you can see bullish candles with red sell volume breaking resistances. And so all of these resistance you can see here are now internal, and the buy volume is external. Okay. So that's giving me hope that we could see higher prices. But again, we need to see this. We need to see buy volume external and all of the sell volume continue internally, and buyers continue to trap sellers at these lows and push price higher, turning previous levels into support. So again, hopefully that just gave you guys some level-headed clarity. But yeah, all this information too, mind you, by the way, is in the Delta Education section. So if you go into the Delta Education section, literally what I just drew out for you on the charts is all in like PDFs that you guys can go read on in the Delta Education section. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this breakdown and just a little bit more insightful information into, the order flow and the tools that we have in this community. Eventually, more and more people will wake up and realize we are the only community on the face of the internet with this software. All right. That's taken our team years to build. So if anybody were to try to duplicate this software, we'd already, by the time they get to building it out, be 10,000 more steps ahead of them. Right. So, yeah, lock in. Blessings to you guys. Hopefully, you all enjoyed. Outside of that, though, I'll see you guys on what's tomorrow? Thursday.